I did like the quote there with Aragorn had some amazing quotes. Like love the speech he had. I love that he cut off the head of the mouth of Sauron. I like that he even said, "You bow to no one." Like give the hobbits the respect they deserve. And I love the ads of Legolas and Gimli. But there are some things like I just don't know that it was necessary. I think it was better than part one because up until the whole part they really couldn't change because they already backed themselves into the corner with Saruman was dead already. It wasn't like to the point it was as bad as the first part. I'll give it a 7-9. 7-9. I think that's fair.
That's hilarious because I'll kind of go in reverse and give my rating for before I give my final takeaways on it. Because I gave it the exact same. You guys can look over here. I got it written down 7-9. That's really funny. I think that's the first time, because we don't tell each other what we think about it. We kind of do it live here on set, and we can, so that way we can kind of debate of why we gave it the number that we did. But the fact that you just said that is just really funny because I gave it the exact same score, 7.9 out of 10. And I'll detail a lot of the same reasons. I did think it was better than part one, mainly because of the battle scenes that we got to see on screen. It was cool to see, even though it wasn't, contextually accurate, the army of the dead swarming the city of Gondor and saving them. It was cool, that battle, like I said, with Legolas watching him take down that Oliphant by himself, like Éomer throwing that spear and like the two Oliphants crashing in, and the battle before the Black Gate where Aragorn just runs straight at it, and you see like Merry and Pippin run with their little legs and the whole of the men like overtake them because they're so short and small, and just Smeagol biting off that finger. Visually had a lot of cool things, but it didn't do a great job of the important key parts of the nuances that make the story what it is. There was a lot of differences here, and like you mentioned, the last 30 minutes of that film, it was nonsense. Like there was a whole other conflict that they just decided we're done, we're tired, we filmed a lot. Like these extended editions are 4 hours a movie. Let's just call it a day and wrap it up. You know what I mean? Like I don't know. Back to Isengard, they never saw Treebeard again. They never had a final parting with everyone from the Fellowship. They never went to Rivendell for Bilbo's birthday before returning home. The Shire, when they got there in the film, was sitting there nice and pretty for them when they returned, instead of under attack like it was in the book. So basically, the last 30 minutes of the movie was just all fucked up. Like that was like what happened. It was just ridiculous because like we had mentioned, and we know that the film had Sauron die in part one with Wormtongue stabbing him off the top of Orthanc. But whatever. But just everything, they took out all of the stuff towards the end and just decided they're going to change the ending. They just said, you know what? We're just going to go full rogue here. And so there's just so much stuff they just left out. That's the whole...
they did sail to the Undying Lands. Like, that was the same. But
yeah, and even then, I still got two things that aren't even the same there. Like, even that was just kind of messed up. But the whole point and why it's important is because this is where Merry and Pippin really come into their own in the books. This is what they were trained to do. It's almost like going in the hyperbolic time chamber in Dragon Ball Z and come out like at your fullest potential, ready to roll. Like Merry and Pippin are now like the greatest knights of the Shire, and they take control of everything and take it back over. And it shows them like their time with both Gondor and with Rohan, how they are now the most prominent hobbits in the Shire when it comes to like defending them and like standing up for these little hobbits who just by nature don't really they just kind of get rolled over because they don't care about too much. They like to eat, they like to drink, and they like to sleep, and like to farm. They like to eat, they make their food and all that.
like
so
to farm.
They're not warriors, not battles, but battlers. But in this book, it shows them like Merry and Pippin come back and rise the whole Shire against the intruders, and they all kick them out. Like that was their shining moment, and the movie said, "Nah, fuck it." So I don't know, man. I thought I had a problem with that for sure. And then even like I said, the goodbye was different. In the book, it was only a surprise to Sam, because Gandalf had sent word ahead for Merry and Pippin in the book to come and say goodbye, so that way Sam didn't travel back alone. In the movie, Gandalf says it's time, and all the hobbits are like, what? What do you mean it's time? Time for what? Like I said, it was only a surprise to Sam in the book, but apparently it was a surprise to everybody in the film. And then, I will say this, the very last closing scene was pretty much spot on, scene for scene, word for word, where Sam comes home and his family was there waiting for him, and he said, well, I'm back. Like, that part was done very, very well. But everything, like I said, everything leading up after the Aragorn being crowned king was a fucking mess. Like for the last bit of that, but for like this is like an action battle movie, this would be one of the top ones. But the fact that it's Lord of the Rings: Return of the King and it's supposed to be based on an events in the novel, there's some important things that we mentioned throughout this episode that you need to add, that you can't cut off and you can't change completely. It's really silly. But it is what it is. You've got to make your differences and make the story your own as you're creating a film, and I get that. It's just I don't love the ones that change the plot of what the novel is supposed to be that really bother me the most. And I am really nitpicky. Obviously, between the two of us, I'm the one that kind of gets really into the details of almost not every single difference, but like I definitely detail a lot more, and I'll go ahead and read it back from the book there, just because I just want everyone to see that it is a good movie in its own right. But like Chase mentioned, a lot of people put Return of the King as the best movie of all the Lord of the Rings movies, when in reality, realistically, just based on accuracy, The Fellowship of the Ring is probably the best, most closely followed of the movies to the novel series. So I don't know. It was cool. There was a lot of action, and it kind of brought a resolution and everything. So I can see why people really loved it. But when you match it up, scene by scene with the novel, you'll see like how different it really is. And so that's kind of why I kind of gave it its mark there. It hits just below an 80 for me. 8.0 out of 10. It's just below an 80. What they say in college. C's get degrees, so it still does its thing, man. But this was, I expected a little bit more. But I will say this, even, quote unquote, the worst Lord of the Rings movie that matches up the least with the novel, which you could argue in terms of it could have been, part 1 of Return of the King or part 2, because they both have a lot of differences in it, but we like part 2 better because a lot of the visuals and the battle scenes. So you can argue, but even though that the lowest rating we gave, or for me personally, that I gave a Lord of the Rings Extended Edition film was a 7.1 out of 10. Where like the worst Harry Potter film I got, I'm pretty sure I gave it like a 4 or something. Like, you know what I mean? So yeah, so even bad. So that it is different, and there are things that I don't love about it. It still overall was a decent rendition of what the novel is about, as we compare it to like other adaptations of films and novels such as Harry Potter.